I haven't, really sat before. I'm a competitor, so I'm going to come to work each and every day and, do my best to make everybody around me better. I understand, what the situation is, but, for me, myself, I care about winning. There's nothing fun about losing. So it doesn't matter, where you're at on the depth chart. If you're playing this much or not playing this much, if you're losing, it sucks. So, for me, I want to make the team better, and that's my focus.
The New York Giants really might be at the beginning of something special. The last few years especially have been quite forgettable, but I think the Giants made some major franchise-altering moves in the draft. The building blocks are in place. I really do think the Giants are going to establish their new culture this year, and they are just one more offseason away of beefing up the front line to really becoming a team that is viewed as a threat and a playoff-level squad. But the Giants do know have the potential to win and surprise people in 2025. I love the new personnel. So in this video, I want to talk about how this Giants team on paper stacks up to the rest of the NFC, and I also want to talk about the future and any other news going on. But first, before I get into this breakdown, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 60,000 subscribers, and with your support, I believe that we can get there super fast. Alright, so before I get into talking about the actual roster and the rookies and breaking down all that stuff, I want to have some fun and just kind of have some conversations and talk about some random things that have been on my mind. Let's talk about the Giants' 2025 schedule and how it affects some of their decisions at quarterback and how this team wants to and should attack this upcoming season. The Giants have a very challenging schedule. Both halves of the season kind of have like mini gauntlets of their own. To me, the post-Thanksgiving home games might be ideal for Dart's debut, given past tendencies of Giants fans to boo struggling players, and I do think at some point the wheels are going to fall off for Russell Wilson. I think the experiment is going to be over. He did better in Pittsburgh, but ultimately he fell off. Obviously, Denver was an atrocity. I'm not sure how many stints are left in his career, but Russ nonetheless brings a ton of valuable experience to this young team that could be huge for the future. I think if the Giants really do end up at some point making the move to throw Jaxson Dart out there in year one to see what he can do, I think you need to give him sort of like a soft landing. You got to roll him out there against a team like the Patriots or something, a game that will give him a chance to make a few mistakes while still having a chance to win. You definitely don't want to throw him out there for a first game against the Eagles or anything like that, because we know with young guys, confidence is everything, confidence is key, and if you throw someone out there and they get bullied from the jump, sometimes mentally it can be hard to come back from. Obviously, like I said, the big point of 2025 for the New York Giants is to build up the new foundational pieces in the culture for the direction this franchise wants to go towards in the future. And that's why I think Russell Wilson is gonna have a pretty long leash. You definitely don't want to rush any decisions on Jaxson Dart this season, and there is no need to. Could the Giants make a surprise run and be in playoff contention come December? Yes, of course they can. But as of right now, I think it's unlikely. But if they do the right thing this year, the Giants really could set themselves up for a super exciting offseason where they will have the chance to make the moves and get the final pieces of the puzzle on the roster to really become the team they have been building towards. I know Joe Schoen has had his fair share of criticism for how he handled the Saquon Barkley situation, and for his sake, it sucked that that entire thing aired on Hard Knocks for the whole world to see, but Schoen is one of the best in the business in terms of his draft evaluations and making good moves. I think the Abdul pick was a unit-changing selection, and then it was a masterclass decision to trade back into the first round to get Jaxson Dart without having to give up significant assets that would affect this team down the line. I think this was a move for the coaching staff because everyone knows that Dable needs to pick up a few more wins than last year to save his job. Really, the main thing that everyone wants to see is improvement. New York wants to see better football being played. I gotta admit, at the time when Schoen made the move and picked Dart, I was fully expecting that Shador finally was going to come off the board, but it turns out I was so wrong as he fell all the way to the 5th round. Also, now real quick, moving on, I want to talk about tanking and kind of the problem the NFL has with it right now. Obviously, the goal for the Giants this year is now to win as many games as possible, but there were a few games that the Giants won last year where if they would have lost, it could have possibly led to them getting the #1 pick and Cam Ward, which would have made them miss out on adding a versatile player like Abdul who can change the defensive line, and they obviously would not have traded back into the first round to get Dart. So who knows where they would have been right now. But anyways, my point is this. Even though the Giants need to win games and make strides forward in 2025, could you imagine another tank job taking place and the Giants potentially being in the run for Arch Manning or one of the ultra talented skill position players lined up to be eligible for next year's draft? If they tanked, they could get that missing piece to really make this team an immediate threat to do something like what the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels did in 2024. So that's my problem with not doing what the NBA does with the draft lottery. I think tanking is terrible for the NFL, and come week 12, the bottom two teams are always going to tank until you implement a lottery, and that's pathetic for this sport. So personally, I would love to see Roger Goodell and the committee up top implement a lottery, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Alright, anyways, enough of all that. Let's talk about the roster and what the Giants have to work with in 2025 and what the draft additions could mean for this team. The quarterback room is something everyone has been talking about and everyone knows about, so I'm going to leave that position alone. The room, of course, consists of Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jaxson Dart. In the backfield, Tyrone Tracy is now expected to take over the running back duties, and he really shocked a lot of people last year. Obviously, he had big shoes to fill after everyone was used to the production of Saquon, but Tracy really carved out a nice little role for himself. He had nearly 1,000 yards, he was in the 800s, and with a more balanced and better offense around him, especially up front on the offensive line, I think he could have broke that mark for sure, and he definitely will be aiming to do so in 2025. And then behind him is Devin Singletary, who is a nice vet with a ton of experience from his Buffalo days, but I'm honestly more intrigued by Cam Scatterbo out of Arizona State than I am in him. The receiving room is definitely an interesting storyline that will once again be led by Malik Nabers, and honestly, I think one of the main X factors for if Nabers can continue the momentum from last year and have even more production in 2025 is if someone else behind him shows up and provides consistency, so opposing secondaries can't only focus on him. Wan'Dale Robinson and Slayton are lined up on the current ESPN depth chart in the number 2 and 3 spot, but I want to see if someone like Hyatt or Collins can step up and give a spark. And then Theo Johnson at tight end is also interesting. The Penn State product had 331 yards last season and is going to look to put everything together this year with hopefully better quarterback play under center. Now switching gears to the defense, everyone is pumped, including me, about this defensive line that is now led by Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence. Abdul Carter is just so versatile. He can play and be plugged into pretty much anywhere outside of the deep secondary. He can be a force inside and get after the quarterback. He can drop back in coverage and deflect passes and keep up with receivers for a few seconds. He has all the tools to be a TJ Watt type of player in the making, and he is just a great foundational piece for this team to have moving forward. The secondary also as a whole collectively have a lot of solid pieces like Bobby Okereke that need to step up and make big plays throughout the upcoming season. But overall, I think the Giants are in a really good place right now. They have young talent, they have vets, they got to start putting it all together on Sundays when it really counts. It can't be all talk anymore. That's really all I have to say for this video. Let me know what your expectations are for this Giants team in the comments below and why. Please be sure to drop your record predictions. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to drop a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell so you never miss another upload, and let me know what you'd like to see next. And until then, I will see you all later.